Sanbonan Dumlang, hello, it's Simply Spencer here and welcome back to my YouTube channel, but also a special welcome to you if you're joining me here for the first time, and also shout out to the podcast listeners listening to the audio version of this on the podcast. Simply do the work. Now on that note, if you're not yet subscribed, please do hit that subscribe button and the notification bell so you can be notified every time I upload a new video, and also share this video / podcast with your friends, family, anyone in your circle. I will greatly appreciate it because I really put a lot of work and research into getting this video up, and so I do want to note that some of the readings I went through and some of the videos I watched were quite were quite dense and heavy, and I want to keep the conversational tone for this video, but I will link the resources in the show notes for the podcast and also in the description down below if you want to do further reading or further watching on this topic. Also, I do want to send you guys to a video I did last year around September when Clicks had that racist ad on their website, and basically that video was not only a response to that situation, but I also go into great detail about my own experiences with black hair, my own trauma, if you will, as well as some of the greater issues that I see in society and that I've read and learned about, not only like in the context of white supremacy, but even within the black community. And so yeah, if you haven't watched that video, I do want to send you over there. But also, if you have watched that video, then this video you can consider it's almost like a continuation of the message I was trying to bring across on that video. Today I'm hoping to expand on points that maybe weren't really covered in that one. And so yeah, this intro is long enough, so let us dive straight right in, starting with, let's define blackness and black hair once again. Like, I feel like I defined blackness a number of times on my channel, but just to remind y'all what blackness is all about. I think blackness is more than just the color of my skin and my hair, and it's more than just like my black body, right? I think blackness, embracing blackness, is also loving and appreciating this, right? It is also rejecting the white supremacist standards that have been imposed on us for so many years. It can be seen almost as the antithesis to whiteness. And so with regards to black hair, I'm specifically talking about my experiences as a black African. So okay, this video I try to structure it into two parts, where part one I'll be discussing mainly the history of black hair and just how did we get here basically, and part two will be focusing more on just like real life implications and hopefully how can we move on and like what's happening, the state of blackness today and black hair in 2021. So let's get into it, starting with the history. So I think with regards to history, I think a lot of people, even black people, don't fully know the history or understand the history of our hair, because in the past, right, different hairstyles were a way of identifying different tribes. And not only could you tell which tribe someone was from based on their hair, but you could also tell their class, their social standing, because the royals and those who had higher standing in society usually had more decorative, more elaborate hairstyles to sort of showcase that, maybe like a young flex nyana, if you will. And so when colonization happened and the slave trade happened, slaves who were forced into labor couldn't take care of their hair the way that they could, right? There was also the way that white people would almost, I don't know, is gawk the right word? But like, yeah, the way white people were, I guess, also fascinated and confused by black people's hair, and they would inappropriately call it wool. They would say it's fuzzy wuzzy, like that's a word that I saw that was used when European colonized, I think it was the Sudanese war, fuzzy wuzzy. And so they looked at our hair and thought, that hair is a mess, that hair is unkept, that hair is dirty. I mean, I think it's Bob Marley who, when he passed on, apparently in the autopsy there was about, I think, 40 plus species of lice which were found in his hair, and those things were sort of used to perpetuate these ideas that black hair is dirty, as if other people don't get parasites in their hair, as if white people don't get these, can get vermin and all of that, right? It became a thing of just hyper focusing on the differenceness of black people, and so painting us as this other that needed to be fixed. Like, we were basically seen as a problem that needed to be fixed, which I think already, I think I can see how toxic that is, how, like, I can't even imagine the psychological trauma that our African ancestors went through, because obviously it's not really, it's not documented because no studies were done on that. No one was really asking, no one was really checking up on them to be like, are you guys okay? How do you feel about being, separated from your home and forced in this foreign land to work, or even just within like South African context, how people were forcibly moved from their homes, all of these things. But rather we were seen as specimens, non-human. And like, that's kind of the reason why I don't want no one touching my hair. Like, I'm not an animal in a petting zoo. I'm not a commodity. I'm not something to be consumed, to be enjoyed for your pleasure. But I feel like I went up in a ramble, so let me just check my notes and see where I was going with this. Oh yeah, but basically, yes, right, as black people were othered and placed inferiorly, that became fertile ground for the inferiority complex seed to grow, right? Because now what was happening is black people were seeing that, oh, we're being treated this way because we're black, because of our skin, because of our hair. And that is when black people started finding means to distance themselves from those things, right? That's when we started having, mixed race people were being praised and elevated because of their proximity to whiteness. And then the dark skinned people who had the kinkier hair, were put down not only by white people but also by black people, right? And that's when people started doing skin lightening treatments, and also different ways were, like, it's so interesting and fascinating to see the ways in which like 100 years ago, how black people would straighten their hair, and how it's like very similar techniques that are used today. And it's interesting, because I think also this is where, I know in the last video, the clips when I was saying that with regards to self-hate, not everyone who straightens their hair today is doing it from a place of self-hate, but I think it's all about their intention and the motivation. Why are you doing that? Because people were even, lightening their children's skin. People were even, straightening their children's hair and trying to distance themselves from blackness. And I think this is also where, right, the issue of like black men cutting their hair, and how black women had to also cover up their hair, because anything that made you stand out too much, like even like, the language that people would say is that the African's hair is a distraction, it's confusing. And so that's why black women had to cover their hair, because white women felt threatened by that. So I think there isn't just this layer of confusion and fear, but there's also a bit of envy to it, right? I think there are non-black people who are envious of the way in which, like, black hair has versatility, y'all. I don't know what to say. I don't know what to say. But then another thing, right, that's I think important with regards to this conversation is recognize that after our skin, our hair is also a key identifier of race. And so, like I mentioned, that's why people were trying to distance themselves from it. But I think it's so wild to me how, like, I always thought this was a joke, right? I was always told about the pencil test. But it's only, like, when I did research, I didn't realize that, it was a legitimate thing that they did. Now, if you don't know, the pencil test is when they would stick a pencil in, usually at the racially ambiguous, stick the pencil in, and if the pencil would stay put even when you like shook your head, then you were deemed black, because it means you have like the kinkier, more tightly curls. Whereas if your hair was of a texture that is closer to whiteness, then the pencil wouldn't stay put, it wouldn't hold. Which I think, if you know how hair works, you recognize that that isn't a a definite way to define race, and that is also why people during the group eras act in South Africa, you had families being torn apart because you find one person, like, you know, within a family, right? Obviously, black people, we aren't just like one brand, one type of black, but like there's variety, right? And so you find within a family, other people have features that are closer to whiteness than others, and then they were told that you guys can't live here, you need to move here, while the others remain, whatever the case might be. And so I think these are all things that we need to consider, we need to think about when we have conversations of hair today, because I think it gets really, I don't want to say lost or forgotten, but I think people don't consider the history because they think, oh, that was so many years ago. But if you actually look at the history then and now, we can see how things haven't really changed. It's like, you know, there's nothing new under the sun, and it's like same shit, different smell, basically that's what's been happening. But I think also with regards to the history, we need to recognize that like the natural hair movement that we know today wouldn't have existed without the work that was done by activists that came before us. Like in South Africa, I think the most notable movement was the Black Consciousness movement, because I think also, if you notice, just look at the pictures of the people involved in that, they were embracing their natural hair, right? The women of that movement made it like they consciously decided to abandon the wigs and the weaves and embrace their natural hair, because also by embracing natural hair, it is a defined way of saying, you know what, I know y'all are telling me the standard is this straight or loose wavy texture that's closer to whiteness, but I'm rejecting that and I'm embracing my natural hair, the way my hair was born. And so if you want to learn more about the history, I do suggest you check the resources in the description. But the incidences that I want to discuss for like the present day, like, okay, so one of the reasons why I felt like I had to make this video is because a couple of weeks ago, someone commented on one of my pictures on Instagram that I need to fix my hair. Like, I think the exact comment was, "Doctor, you need to fix that hair." And I was obviously upset. If my clicks video and you know exactly like what I went through with my hair, you'll understand why personally that would be also upsetting. But also just the history that I just told you also puts it into context why that is such a rude thing to tell a black person, to fix their hair. What is, I think also today words like neat and presentable are coded language for proximity to whiteness. And I remember my response to that comment was, okay, I deleted the comment. So if you go look at my Instagram, it's gone. I deleted it because no one wants to see that mess. But I posted a story saying that, why is it that for black people's hair the standard is so high? It's almost unattainable. It literally is almost unattainable. Because I feel like a white person can just wake up, like you hear white people say, oh, I didn't even have time to do my hair, I did nothing to my hair, I just literally got up and I left the house. It's like, could never be me. Black people do not have the luxury to just get up and not do anything with their hair. I think another thing that upset me with that comment is like, even if you see my hair looking like a mess, like in the streets, there is a good chance that I spent at least 10 to 15 minutes struggling. I'm using struggling loosely with it. And so the first point I want to argue is I think we need to really rethink and redefine our definition of what is acceptable hair to be in public. Because and I remember a few weeks ago a video trended on social media of a teacher forcibly combing this young schoolboy's hair, which I was triggered by that. I was triggered by that because I was immediately reminded of the people who used to tell me in high school that I need to comb my hair better or my hair is unkempt. And honestly, I have the type of, I think also another thing we recognize that there is variety within black people's hair. Like some people's hair, they'll run a comb through it and it'll sit perfectly just like that. But like my hair personally, it doesn't do that. It doesn't do that. It's not built like that. Like my hair built different, I guess. And so this idea that in modern day South Africa we don't have hair discrimination is also something that has bothered me. like one of the videos I was watching, the person had the audacity to say that, oh no, but in Africa they don't have any of these issues with hair. You know, Africa is the motherland. Those things are embraced and celebrated. And I was just like, who's gonna tell him? Who's gonna tell him? Because I feel like even here in South Africa, the cycle of self-hate, I see it in certain people, right? So the people who just are so addicted to relaxing their hair or putting on the weaves and the wigs. It's kind of like, obviously I don't want to project or impose self-hate on people who just prefer a certain aesthetic, but also I think we have to have the conversation, ask ourselves, why do you prefer that aesthetic? Right? Like, I understand we're all individuals, we have our choices, but our choices do not exist in a vacuum, right? There is the social context, there is the political context. And so, you know, I do understand the people who say that their hair is unmanageable, people who feel like that that there are people who feel like black hairstyles are not professional, right? I remember on Twitter there was a debate on our braids, an acceptable hairstyle for a birthday party. All these things, it's like, I think everyone, like I'm speaking to my black people here, we need to just sit down with ourselves and really introspect the choices we make, what's influencing them. Because like I said in my previous video, I did say that, like, wanting to wear straight hair or straighten your hair, I don't think that is inherently coming from a place of self-hate. But, you know, I can't act like the history and, you know, how these things came to be doesn't exist. I think this is also why, with regards to like the conversation of non-black people donning black hairstyles, right, there's the idea that it's the same when black people put on wigs and weaves or straighten their hair. It's like, no other racial ethnic group is discriminated against because of how their hair grows from their scalp. Like, I recently found that my sister's high school has this rule that says any afro style cannot grow above 6 centimeters off your head for female students, for girls, and for boys that's 4 centimeters. And I'm just like, okay, so what are you saying to, let's say, like the black girl who has a long afro, who has long type 4 hair? Are you telling her to flatten it? Are you telling her to lay it down? Like, what is the, like, I see what y'all are saying, because they're saying, oh no, it is a distraction when the hair is too big, it is it blocks other people. And I'm just like, that's the same shit that the colonizers said when they first encountered black people. And it's like, there's just no way you can't tell me that rule is racist. But on the plus side, I can say at least that school, because I used to go there actually, they have changed some of the rules in the sense that now boys are allowed to braid and lock their hair. Because when I was there, the school rules explicitly said no cornrows, braids, or dreadlocks are allowed, specifically like in the boys section. So at least they've improved that, but still it's like took 2 steps forward and then 1 back. And it's kind of, this is where I think also the problem of, like, we need representation with power, because it's like, if there was a black person when they were writing down these rules, no black person would be like, yeah, let's put a rule saying that afro shouldn't go above 6 centimeters from our head. Like, what are you saying? This is how our hair grows from our scalps. I feel like this is why I don't really engage with white people with regard to my hair, because they don't know what they're talking about. I think there's also a reason why I was so offended by that comment, is because another black person said it, right? If a white person said, I'd be like, you know what, screw you, you know nothing about my hair, just, you know, leave me alone, move around me. And so, even on the idea of right, the expectations for black men, because like I mentioned how the school rules have now shifted, that now they do allow boys to cornrow their hair. I also, like, I kind of don't appreciate how there's still that gendering, in the sense that girls get like 6 centimeters, boys get like 4 centimeters, because when we get into like corporate spaces, and I think even now this is where the intersectionality of blackness and queerness comes in, right? It's because now you're finding yourself that people are being boxed into these gender roles or into genders that don't fit them, right? because like that's something which I really struggled with growing up. The fact that I wanted to grow my hair, but I was told, because I was being socialized to be a man, right? I was being raised to be a, man, that I had to cut my hair, right? I had to always have short hair. And also there's the stereotyping that black men who have locks or who have cornrows are gangsters or they're thugs, and I feel like I've noticed it's only people who are doing the creative careers or athletes, they're the ones who are able to have a little bit more freedom with their hair. But if you want to be in the corporate world, in the more serious world, you don't have that freedom, which is why I remember I was once upset at a non-black friend of mine who had locks and didn't see the issue with that, even though I tried to explain to him why it's not the same when he does these locks and when I do them. Like the way people will perceive the both of us is not the same. But moving along, I think the final point is that I am seeing that there is being a shift in people's perspectives. There is a shift in people's ideas, not only like other people's ideas about black hair, but even black people's own ideas. I think a lot of black people now are really starting to embrace their natural hair. A lot of black people now are really starting to also experiment with their hair. Like I feel like now we sort of like, reappropriating, if that's the right term, reappropriating our own cultures, right? Our own styles, and sort of like the styles that our ancestors used to do are coming back with like modern twists. And I think it's really beautiful to see these hairstyles making a comeback and being separated, but I still think there's still a long way to go. We still got some raggedy rules in some of these schools. Even I know like my university has rules against locks, and it's kind of like, why? Like I think that's the thing. I feel like no one has actually really questioned why are these rules in place or who put them in place. I think that's the thing. I think some of these stands and ideals, even though they were presented to us, they were brought to us by white people, it's black people who are still perpetuating them. It's black people who are instilling the self-hate in their children by forcing them to cut their hair when they don't want, or forcing them to relax when they don't want, and making these nasty comments, or saying that one person has the good kind of hair, right, the good curls, and then putting down someone else and saying your hair is tough, your hair is unmanageable. I think also there's the racist idea that black hair is coarse and strong and tough. Like our hair is actually very delicate, child. Like in conclusion, I think that we all need to take some time to really learn and understand the history, understand how this history has impacted us today. And I also think we need to do the work to question why do we think the way we do? Why do we say things to people? Like why are you telling someone to fix their hair? Is there anything really wrong with their hair, or is it just your perception, right? Or are you still holding on to certain anti-black rhetoric that you need to decolonize yourself from? And so hope this video made sense. I feel like it was a little bit all over the place, but once again, thank you so much for watching or listening, and if you enjoyed it, please do give it a thumbs up. Don't forget to share, subscribe, also comment down below, or you can reach me on social media at SimplySphere. So Instagram is where I'm most active. And so until you see me or you hear from me in the next one, I love you so much. Bye guys.